Hello guys, I'm Raccoon, and today I'm going to be doing a review of Days Gone. Now I know I'm fairly late to this party, but the reason why is because I've heard good things from both sides of the fence. I've seen what the critics have said about it, and I've seen what the players have said about it. So I thought the best way to try and do this would be to actually give it some time, play a substantial amount of this game, and come to my own conclusions. Now, towards the end of this, as I get into the review and that, there will be spoilers, so keep that in mind. Not major ones, just little things that didn't really gel right with me. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to look at some of the complaints I've heard about this game, and some are merited and some really are not. When it comes to them saying the story isn't that great, that's sort of yes and no sort of thing. The story is decent to it. The problem is it takes about 6 hours for the story to start going, and that's something that is something to put on the developers of the game. But like I said, they're a small company. They haven't done I don't think they've done a AAA title in years. So yeah, that could have been better. That could have been done a lot better. I mean, there are just things that were vital to the story that you don't find out until well after you pretty much needed to know this shit. Another one of the arguments I heard is the Deacon St. John, the character you play as, is a man's man. He goes around, he doesn't care, he beats the fuck out of everything. The people who came to that assumption clearly need to be tested, because they can't tell the difference between a man's man like Duke Nukem and a man who is basically in pain and waiting to die, because that is the category that Deacon St. John falls under. That is why he goes out. He just goes into these stupid situations where it's a high probability of death because he wants to fucking die up until one point. Another thing I've seen people complaining about is how he womanizes and sexually harasses a woman in the game. Yet these people fail to also explain that the woman that he sexually harassed in the game at the time of the sexual harassment was his girlfriend. And then they came out with the whole thing of like, oh, he said he was going to ride her as much as he rides his bike. That did come up in the game, but again, they failed to mention this came up on their wedding day, and it was the wife that made him promise this. So it's okay to have arguments and not really like this, but if you don't lay down the whole situation, your argument kind of falls flat. But those are just the arguments that I've heard against the game that didn't gel right. When it comes to the game, it is a decent game. I wouldn't say like it's on par with games like The Last of Us. Like, everyone was comparing this to The Last of Us, and this is no Last of Us. It's a good game, but no Last of Us. Yeah, you play as a character called Deacon St. John, and the majority of the game takes place just under or around 2 years after the infection first began. You've got your best mate Boozer, and he basically sticks by your side. He is your backup. Although when it comes to going out and that, you pretty much do go out on solo runs. It is just you, but he is like your best mate back from when you're part of this MC called the Mongrels, I think. I'm pretty sure it was called the Mongrels. The relationship between Deacon and Boozer is comical. It does get funny, but again, the whole game, it just feels like a slow burn, and that's what's going to kill it. I think that's what killed it for a lot of critics, because I can understand some critics play a game for like 3-4 hours, and from that they get a decent idea of what the game's like. I don't see critics or game reviewers or anything like that sitting down and putting 20-30 hours in before writing up their review. If that was the case, the scores would have come out a bit more differently. You got, when you first begin the game, it's like I knew he had a wife before I even started playing. One thing I didn't know is that the wife's name was Sarah, even though it's inked on his neck. Nowhere does it come up that this woman's called Sarah. Right up to the point where you find out, oh, you actually figure it out. It's like I was playing, it's like, oh, you know, I'm not, it's ever since I lost Sarah, I'm like, Sarah, who the fuck was Sarah? And I put two and two together, it's like, oh, it must have been the fucking wife. Yeah, there are flashbacks in the game to show you how the relationship built between Deacon and Sarah. Now, to me personally, they seem a little bit out of order, and I don't mean that as in like, oh, offensive or anything. They're just, you're getting flashbacks in essentially the third act of the game, and by then it's like these flashbacks really should have been condensed a little bit and padded out through the first act of the game, just to solidify the relationship he had before the whole world went to shit. And that's why he is the way he is. He's basically gone fucking nuts. He wants to die, in kind of why he takes down the Freakers. There are some issues in this game, namely frame rate issues. That is absolutely fucking horrendous at the moment. Now, the one thing I find weird is that the frame rate issues don't really seem to kick in that badly until you're pretty much in the third act, until you head down to the Southern Territory. That's when it gets really bad, and that is something that the developers really need to fix. There are, let me work this out here, 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 5, if I remember right, I think 5 different bases, basically, of settlements of survivors around the map. You can go there, you get jobs from them, like little bounties, things like that. They'll actually phone you up on the radio, so you can do jobs from them. And in these camps you can earn trust. Now you can use that trust to basically unlock new bits for your bike, new weapons, things like that. And the main currency of the game, as you can see in the video footage I've got here, I've been running around collecting ears. That's the currency of the game. The Freaker ears are the currency of the game. So yeah, you collect ears basically. You can go into these camps, you can spend so many ears on what you want essentially. You probably won't have a problem running out, especially if like you're like me, you go out and you want to kill everything there is. You won't have a problem running out. The game does introduce new species of Freakers at a decent rate, to the point where just as you're getting comfortable with the level of Freaker you've got, you're like, oh, you know, I'm going to take these fuckers down easy. They bring something new in. There are different species of them. They're actually given different code names as well. You got the basic Freaker, then you get one that's a little bit stronger, paler. They call him the Bleacher. You got ones that are Wolven. They're infected wolves, and they're called Runners. You've got Screamers, typical thing kind of there. You've got the Bruiser, again typical. Is if you look at it from the aspects of Left 4 Dead, you've got your basic zombies, ones that are a little bit tougher. You've got the Bride, you've got the tanks. You know, it's pretty much the same formula that most of these zombies / infected games sort of run. You've got a Rager, which is a mutated bear. You've got Newts, which can get a little dark. Newts are basically infected children. And then you've got one called the Reacher. The Reacher is by far the most dangerous out of all of them. He's a fucking evil bastard. Not only do you have Freakers to deal with, you've also got human enemies to deal with. You've got basic scavengers that will set up road traps, things like that, pull like a metal wire across the street, later wipe you out. Other than that, you've got enemies called the Rippers. Now the Rippers will snipe out your bike from under you, and they're quite vicious little bastards. But again, when it comes to the Ripper clans, their creation ties into Deacon St. John's past, so that's another thing that loops back round to him. Let's see, yeah, basic tip when it comes to this game, like The Last of Us, the best thing you can do is scavenge absolutely fucking everything, because everything in this game will have a use for you. I've seen people suggesting like what their favourite weapon is, and this is just like little tips I'm going on with here. Basically the best weapons of the game, and they've all got like, top best weapons, all this kind of thing. Thing is, the best weapons in the game differ obviously from person to person and how you play. Like when it comes to my top 3 weapons, the 3 weapons I've got equipped here, only one of them I've seen in lists of like top 10 weapons, and that's the SMP-9. The other 2 weapons I'm packing is the MG55 and the IDF PUP. The reason why I love these weapons is that they're accurate, they can drop zombies quite quickly, and they've got a decent rate of fire. Now the thing is, with all 3 of these weapons, the only way to get them in the condition I got them in, which I think is Spec Ops condition, because all the weapons come in different conditions, like Junkers, decent, good, military grade, then you got Spec Ops at the end. All 3 of these weapons came from destroying hordes. That's the only way to earn them. You can earn variants of the SP-9. I have not seen an MG55 in the stores, and I've not seen an IDF PUP in the stores. So to get these weapons, you have to go and destroy the hordes. But right, let's see what else is on my list here. There are other decent weapons in the game. Like you got the chopper, that's a good one. That doesn't come until later in the game. You got the 50 caliber BFG, that's a decent one. And then you do have the crowd breaker shotgun. Again, that's a decent weapon. Anything you have, like if you're watching the footage here where I'm running from a horde, any plan you think you've laid out to take out a horde, it's never going to go to plan. It never will. Let's see, what else have I got here. Right, when it comes to how these hordes work, as you can see, they're just kind of chasing me. This is a strategy I used. Run away, put a bit of distance, lay some down some ground fire. The top like little trinkets I suggest using would be things like Molotov cocktails. You do get napalm later on. The attractor bombs will be your best friend in this game. They will literally be your best friend in this game. When it comes to the layout, it's the game flows quite well once the story does get going, because obviously it seems like the first 6 to 8 hours is sort of like the tutorial of it. Once you figure all the shit out, you're good to go, and you'll find yourself start cruising through a bit more easily. You can take out freaker nests, so you can actually reduce the number of freakers in the areas that you're travelling through, make it a bit more easy and a bit more safer to travel. When it comes to the horde mentality, it's not really that difficult. I was a little bit let down from it, because obviously when we saw the gameplay of it at an E3, they showed them like running towards you and moving like water and bursting through like a train carriage. It was at the sawmill. That's the video I remember seeing, at a sawmill. Now, if I was going to choose what hordes are better between this and World War Z, when you get the hordes in World War Z, those hordes are better because they do literally flow like water. However, one thing I will say is that when it comes to things outside of the hordes, this game does shine, because you can be so distracted taking out a few freakers in front of you and laying out like gunfire, you won't realise you've got about 6 coming up behind you, and it's things like that that really makes the game more intense. The map is fairly big, and I think that's probably a part of the frame rate issue, because the map is fairly fucking vast. I think there's like what, 4 or 5 different biomes in a, like, is literally massive. Your bike, never underestimate the value of your bike in this game. Your bike is your lifeline. If you get stuck out there, you are in for a long ass run. One thing I wish they did do, especially when it comes to the hordes, because I'm watching the footage playback here, when it comes to the hordes, I kind of wish that after you annihilate the hordes, you're automatically awarded all of the ears from that horde, because otherwise you're spending a lot of time running around, backtracking and following the path you led the horde on to collect all the rewards from it. The supporting characters are fairly good. Like I said, you've got Boozy, your best mate. He's good. He gets quite funny later on. You've got Ricky, who tries to act sort of like Deacon's moral compass, and she's fairly decent. When it comes to the antagonists, they are very, very simple and very easy to figure out who you're going to hate. Although when it comes to a couple of them, you don't realise at first how much you're going to grow to hate them, which is fairly cool. The trust system in this to get the camps up. Now the trust system actually has a bigger role than I initially thought. I thought it was just like, oh, you get your trust up with these camps and you get the best tier gear. That's about it. No, to raise the trust of these camps actually influences a segment of the game. So it's always worth to keep that in mind. If you get them all up, you'll probably recognise what part of the game I'm on about when you see it, but they influence a part of the game. The graphics to this is fairly decent for a game this size. It is graphically decent. I wouldn't say like, oh, it's like top tier amazing shit like that. No, but it's a fucking good game. I lost myself in hours. Like, I didn't think I'd get on with this game. I didn't go in with high expectations. But once I got over that hump of like the fucking 6 to 8 hour slog to actually get to where the story's getting good, I found myself losing hours in this game and I didn't even realise it. The bike handles well, and obviously as you're progressing and you develop your bike, you get new treads in there. You can customise your bike with new engines. Pretty much everything you could think of goes into the bike, and it all helps. Always keep an eye out for fuel. Always keep an eye out for fuel, because you will need fuel. Eventually you get to later on where the gas tanks to your bike are big enough where you don't really need to worry about it that much. You could pull into a gas station and fill up whenever, but it's not as vital as it is when it comes to early parts of the game. Yeah, here comes some spoiler style bits. When the game begins, you're shown little flashbacks here and there of the life before the infection began. You see Deacon with a blonde woman. That turns out to be his wife Sarah, and the last you ever saw of her is that you put her on a Nero helicopter, which is basically like a government agency that was trying to find out what the infection was and try and cure it. That was the last you saw of her. You were told that she was going to a certain camp, and when you and Boozer reached that camp, it was overrun. Everybody was dead. So yeah, Deacon makes a memorial stone tablet for Sarah, and yeah, he's basically spent the last 2 years mourning her. He's never forgotten about her, and he's basically just trying to die. The reason why he doesn't go out himself is because of a promise he made with Boozer, and that was that they're not going to give up that fucking easy. They're going to go out with a fight. That's what he's trying to do. As the story progresses, you start doing odd jobs for the camps here and there, and then at one point you see that a Nero helicopter flies over you. Now the thing is, this is obviously around about 2 years after the infection. Nero's supposed to be gone. The government's supposed to be gone, you know. Deacon wants to find out what the hell happened with that camp. Turns out that the guy who was on the helicopter that Deacon put his wife on the helicopter with is still alive. So he starts chasing him down and trying to get some answers about his wife. That's probably where I'm going to leave that, because that does literally go into more detail. Let's see. When it comes to things that didn't work in this game, primarily the bosses. Now when it comes to the Freakers ain't the bosses. When it comes to human antagonists, the bosses kind of failed for me. Because I'm wanting to go in, they've caused shit for me, I've blown apart all their men, I've gone into their bases, I want to kick the fuck out of them. Now, to the best of my knowledge, to what I can remember, because I'm recording this about a week after I've played the game through twice. But there are primarily 3 different human antagonists. Only one of them you really get to try and kill. But other than that, I think like 2 are quick time events, and 1 the final one, it's a fucking cutscene. Literally, it's a cutscene. And that was a real downer because I really wanted to kill that last boss. I wanted to blow his fucking head off so badly. But putting that aside, which I admit does deduct a few points from the game for me. It does. It would have been so much better if I got to put those fucking bullets in the enemies. It really would have been better. There are a few things that do credit the game. It is a decent game. The story is decent. The exploration is decent. The scavenging is decent. It's not a terrible game by any means. It's not a great game, but it's not a terrible game. I would easily, if I was to give this an honest fucking rating, I'd easily give it a 7. Honestly, it does have faults, but it's not mediocre. Once the story gets going, you're really drawn into it. Plus, if you're a bit of a sadist like me, you know, you want to go around, you want to wipe out all the hordes and burn them and set them on fire and, you know, laugh. Let's see. I'm really trying to think of what else I can say about it. It's the price. I wouldn't pay full price for this. Definitely not in the current condition with how the frame rate issues are, because that is just horrendous. But if you could snag this for 30, between 30 and 40 quid, that's where this game's going to have its worth. Really, it will. Anything above 40, you might not get your money's worth out of it, especially if you find that you can't push yourself over that hump to get to where the story starts getting good. Where you can pretty much upgrade everything apart from your main guns. You can upgrade your bike, you can upgrade melee weapons. They're the only weapons that can break as well, so watch out for that. Nero checkpoints as well. Nero checkpoints have a very special thing to them. They are basically how you will increase your health, your stamina and your focus, and your focus is the thing that lets you slow down time. I found myself not really using that. I focused more on my health, my stamina. The focus came in handy sometimes, but not all the time. It's a good game. There is a secret ending to it, which I am not going to spoil, but in all honesty, I found myself, by the time I reached the end of the game, I was pleased with it. There is enough in this game to merit buying and playing it if you can find it for under 40 quid. That is going to be that would be my top bar, 40 quid. Other than that, just wait. If you want to wait until it's cheaper, go for it. But bear in mind, this game, like I've kept saying throughout this whole review, I cannot say this enough. This game is an extremely slow burn. If you don't have the patience to push through with a load of slow, like this here, that there is a frame rate drop, and watch, it's not crashed. I was waiting for this. There you go. That's how bad it gets in the southern areas. They need to fix that. They really need to fix that. That was not fucking good. But yeah, if you can get this for cheap, go for it. If you think you don't have the patience to push through with a load of slow paced, it's basically foundation building, don't bother getting this. I have heard rumours that they're already planning a second one, a Days Gone 2. I'm looking forward to that. I know that seems a bit stupid, especially considering how I'm saying this game's slow paced and all that kind of thing, but the problem is this game is slow paced, but now all of the foundation work that this game's had to do is built. It's already laid out. They can now push through, and the second one can be more streamlined. It could be interesting literally from the drop of the hat, and I'm hoping to see that they do make some vast improvements, especially when it does come to how they lay out the story. But yeah, that's my honest thoughts on this game. It's not like a top tier amazing game or anything like that, but it's worth a play. It really is. worth a go. But for the right price, I know my voice is starting to go here. It's very, very warm here at the moment. It's middle of summer, so that's a bit better. But yeah, the game's worth getting. It's a good game. It's got a decent story to it. If you think you can push yourself and get over the 6 to 8 hour grind, you'll probably find yourself liking this. Even if you don't want to do it in one sitting, chip it off a bit of a time. But depending on how well you're thinking you have to push through that, lower the price. If you think it's going to take you a couple of days to chip through that and play other games in between, wait till this drops down in price a lot. But this game is worth getting. I would give it honestly a 6, 7 at most. But that's been my thoughts of it. I did enjoy playing it. I did. Once the story started going, I really enjoyed playing this. But anyway, guys, that's been my review. If you've played this game, if you enjoyed this game, if you didn't enjoy this game, you know what to do. Leave a comment down below. Let me know your thoughts. Because at the end of the day, when games come out like this and they have people on both sides of the fence saying, "Oh, it's crap" or "It's great," it opens up chances of conversation. So yeah, until next time, guys. I've been the Raccoon. Take care and have a good one.